We do have a section of it now, and this is Barack Obama from earlier tonight answering questions from the media following him. Watch.
Statement. I'll take one or two questions. This is a extraordinarily serious moment in our country's history, and regardless of how we got into this mess, and obviously I've got some very strong opinions about that, I think it is critical for us to work in a bipartisan way, not worrying about credit or blame, to try to deal with the short-term problem. I am as frustrated as anybody about the speculator greed and risk-taking, as well as the lack of oversight and regulation that led us into this circumstance. But at this point, people's jobs, homes, small businesses, the ability of people to make payroll, all those could be impacted. Yesterday, I put out a joint statement with John McCain at my suggestion that outlined some core principles that a deal should include. That we have oversight and transparency and accountability in the plan. That we make sure that taxpayers are treated as investors and that they can get their money back. That we are not using this to pad CEO salaries or allow them to walk away with golden parachutes. And that we do something to deal with the underlying problem of homeowners so that they are benefiting from a plan as well. It appeared that we had made progress on all those fronts. I had repeated conversations with Secretary Paulson, as well as the Democratic leadership, and I think, although there was all the T's weren't crossed and the I's dotted, at least there was some rough consensus around those principles, and I think things were moving forward. The Senate Republicans also appeared to be interested, at least, in some of these core principles. My impression from the meeting today is that the President and the Secretary of the Treasury still need some work, still have some work to do with the House Republicans, who indicated that they might have some problems with the core concepts of the plan. And so my hope is that we are going to have discussions. I think that it's important for those who have different ideas to get them out front as quickly as possible, and to make sure that they are vetted as quickly as possible so we can bring this to some sort of resolution, at least in the short term. I think there are going to be a whole host of long-term issues that have to be dealt with. I've looked at the jobless claims today, a record, or the highest on record in the last 7 years. And that tells me that Main Street's still hurting. Even setting aside this immediate crisis, I still believe we need a stimulus package. I still believe that bankruptcy reform might be appropriate. I still believe that we've got some structural problems because the fundamentals of the economy are not strong. But we have this very narrow task ahead of us right now, and that's to make sure that the financial system, not just here in the United States, but around the globe, continues to work. So I'll be staying in Washington tonight. I'll be having conversations with congressional leaders. Hopefully I'll be able to reach out to Secretary Paulson as well. And then, hopefully then the negotiations proceed tomorrow. One last point I want to make, though, because I think there's obviously some curiosity about the role of the presidential candidates in this entire process. What I've found, and I think was confirmed today, is that when you inject presidential politics into delicate negotiations, it's not necessarily as helpful as it needs to be. Just because there's a lot of glare of the spotlight, there's the potential for posturing or suspicions, and I think that the way that I've been working over the last week, constantly in contact with the Secretary and the congressional leaders, may end up creating an environment in which you can actually get something done. Because, as I said before, when you're not worried about who's getting credit or who's getting blame, then things tend to move forward a little more constructively. So, the last point I'll make about the debates tomorrow. I believe that the most important thing that John McCain and I can do tomorrow, in addition to continuing to monitor the situation and talking to congressional leaders and the administration, is to go to Mississippi for 90 minutes, go before the American people, and explain our vision of where the economy needs to go. One of us is going to be in charge of this mess in 4 months. And the American people, I think, not only have a right but an obligation to find out where we want to take the country and what we believe. And so my hope is that the debate goes forward. I intend to be there. I'm going to take just a couple questions. Go ahead.
Obama, this plan is giving a lot of power to the Secretary of the Treasury. And one of you, as you said, is going to be in charge of this. And if you name it Treasury Secretary, what kind of a Treasury Secretary do you want? You want someone that's close to the Main Street or Wall Street? And secondly, a lot of your parties say that Senator McCain is sort of afraid to debate tomorrow night. Do you believe that?
Well, you know, Senator McCain has no reason to be fearful about a debate. He's a person of strong opinions, and you know, he's been expressing them on the campaign trail. This does give us an opportunity to go back and forth. In terms of a Secretary of the Treasury, obviously I want somebody who understands all the dimensions of the economy. I want somebody, and we're going to need somebody in there who understands the financial system and how Wall Street works. But we also have to have somebody who, in their gut, understands that the American people on Main Street have been hurting for a very long time, not just since this crisis. Their wages and incomes have flatlined. That the economic theory that we give those at the top the most, and that somehow prosperity trickles down, has not worked. In fact, pain's trickled up because people, you know, are overextended. They've got too much debt. Their wages or incomes are not keeping up with their costs. And so the job, I think, of the next president and the next